kindergarten class, how many of you can draw? And all hands shoot up.
Yes, of course we can draw, all of us.
But what can you draw?
Anything.
How about a dog eating a fire truck in the jungle?
Oh, sure. How big do you want it?
How many of you can sing?
Yes, of course we can sing.
But what can you sing?
Anything.
What if you don't know the words?
That's okay. We'll make them up.
Let's sing.
Now?
Why not?
How many of you can dance? What kind of music do you dance to?
Any kind. Let's dance.
Now?
Sure, why not?
How many of you like to act in plays? How many of you can play musical instruments? How many of you can write poetry? How many of you can read, write, and count?
We're learning that right now.
Ask the same questions on a college audience, and they'll also try to qualify their limitations.
I can play the piano, but not very well. My mother made me.
I only dance to rock and roll.
I only sing in the shower.
I only draw conclusions.
When asked why the limitations, college students usually answer.
I don't have any talent.
I haven't done any of that since about the 3rd grade.
Who's got the time?
That's not my major.
Ask the same questions to a group of older adults, and the results are the same.
Is that the time? No way around that.
What went wrong between kindergarten and now? What happened to yes? Of course I can. I've become so caught up in my grown-up stuff.
It seems I've lost some spontaneity. It seems I've lost perspective on living life. Every day at my job with my family, but I'm discovering all I really need to know. I learned in kindergarten about how to live, what to do, how to be. It's the sandbox code of ethics, not some grad school mumbo jumbo that's had the greatest impact on me. I learned,
Share.
Play fair.
Don't hit people.
Don't take things that don't belong to you.
If you hurt someone, say you're sorry.
To name just a few.
clean up your own mess.
And wash your hands before you eat.
Hold hands and stick together when you cross the street.
Flush.
Live a balanced life, learn something, some work and play.
And sing and dance and draw.
Laugh each day.
Remember the first word you learned in your Dick and Jane book. The biggest, most important word of all.
Cinderella was the title on the chalkboard marquee.
Given the task of dramatizing a fairy tale for the parent-teachers conference, the kindergarten class chose the classic rags to riches story, Cinderella.
You know how it goes. Shy, agreeable protagonist, victimized by an abusive step-parent, waits for a wise matriarchal figure to deliver her transform from codependency to bliss.
Basically, if you're good looking, got a fairy godmother, and you're good at heart, you've got it made.
It was a good choice from a teacher's point of view, because there are so many different parts, and every child could be in the play.
A cast of characters was compiled as the class talked through the plot of the drama.
There was the absolutely ravishing Cinderella,
The evil stepmother.
The two wicked but stupid stepsisters.
The beautiful and wise fairy godmother.
The pumpkin.
Mice.
coachman,
Horses.
The king.
All the people at the king's ball.
Generals.
Admirals.
Knights.
princesses,
And, of course, that ultimate object of fabled desire,
The prince.
Who, if you recall, was really only a salesman interested in pushing his inventory of glass slippers.
The children were allowed to choose roles for themselves. As the parts were allotted, each child was labeled carefully with a felt pen and paper and sent to stand over on the other side of the room. Finally, every child had a part.
All except one small boy who remained quiet and disengaged from the whole selection process. Norman. He was different, not weird, just different in the way he looked at things. And like so many great but misunderstood thinkers, he was teased a lot by his peers, causing him to live on the fringe of kindergarten society.
Well, Norman, said the teacher, what are you going to be?
Well, I'm going to be the pig.
Pig? There's no pig in the story of Cinderella.
Well, there is now.
Norman did not relate to being a footman or a mouse or a pumpkin.
he knew his character. Pig.
and he was not about to give up his part in the play and go stand on the wall where a loser would stand.
He intended to participate wherever pigs fit into the scheme of things. Without giving up dignity or identity, he took it for granted that there was a place in the story for pigs, and that the teacher would know that.
So, what do you say to a kid who is already envisioning a costume made up of long pink underwear, a pipe cleaner tail, and a paper cup for a nose?
What do you say to an innocent little pig who doesn't see his career as an actor teetering on the brink of utter humiliation?
And what do you say to all the pigs? All those who are different and do not accept the provided boxes and pigeonholes?
So, what did the teacher say at that moment?
Well, sometimes teachers can be a bit like fairy godmothers.
So be it.
Norman was declared the pig in the story of Cinderella.
It was quite fine with the rest of the class. Nobody else wanted to be the pig anyhow.
And since there was nothing in the script explaining what the pig was supposed to do, the action was left up to Norman. As it turned out, he gave himself one of the all-time best walk-on parts in the history of children's theater.
He made no sound. He simply sat on his back haunches and observed what was going on around him, like some silent support of Greek chorus.
The expressions on his face reflected the details of the drama, looking worried,
Sad.
Anxious,
hopeful,
puzzled,
Bad.
bored.
sick.
And pleased, as the moment required.
There was no doubt what was going on, and no doubt that it was important.
One look at the pig, and you knew. He was just so earnest, so very there.
Norman created such dramatic tension that those who knew how the story was supposed to end began to have doubts.
And at the climax, when the prince finally placed a glass slipper upon Cinderella's foot, and the two embraced happily and rode off into their happily ever after, Norman finally made his move. He went wild with joy, jumping up and down on the stage on his hind legs, and barking like a dog.
In rehearsal, the teacher tried explaining to Norman, even if there was a pig in the story of Cinderella, there is no such thing as a dancing, barking pig.
Well, there is now.
It's true, Norman. It's true. Knock 'em dead, pig.
The presentation at the teachers' conference was a smash hit.
The crowd of weary teachers wept and sighed and laughed when Norman danced his dance.
And during the curtain call, when the pig stumbled out for the curtain call, he received a spontaneous standing ovation.
The crowd of teachers could see that the real Cinderella was not the little girl with the blonde hair and the button nose, but rather Norman, the dancing, barking pig.
And they could see that the real fairy godmother was not the child waving her magic wand, but the teacher, standing, weeping in the wings.
Kindergarten teachers know magic when they see it.
The kindergarten class was asked by many others to put on their smash hit of Cinderella. Sometimes, the teacher would have to explain what made it so special.
It has a pig in it, you see.
Oh, really?
Yes. The star of the show is a dancing, barking pig.
But there is no dancing, barking pig in the story of Cinderella.
Well, there is now.
On an early dry dark of an October's evening, the neighborhood children are playing hide and seek. How long since I played hide and seek? 40 years? I remember how and I could join in their game in a moment if they invited me. But adults don't play hide and seek. Not for fun anyway. Did you have a kid in your neighborhood who always hid so good nobody could find them? We did. After a while, we would give up and go off, leaving him to rot wherever he was. Sooner or later, he'd show up all mad because we didn't keep looking for him. And we would get mad back because he wasn't playing the game that was supposed to be played. There's hiding and there's finding, we'd say. And he'd say, it's hide and seek, not hide and give up. And we'd all yell about who made the rules and who cared about who anyway, and how we wouldn't keep playing with him if he didn't get it straight. No matter what, though, he would always hide too good again. He's probably still hiding somewhere for all I know. The neighborhood game goes on, and there's a kid hiding under my front window in a pile of leaves. He's been there for some time now, and everybody else is found, and they're about to give up on him over at the base. I considered going out to the base and telling them where he's hiding. And I considered setting the leaves on fire. Finally, I just yelled, "Get found, kid!" It's hard to know how to be helpful sometimes. A man I know found out last year he had terminal cancer. He was a doctor and knew about dying, and he didn't want to make his friends and family suffer through that with him. So he kept his secret, and he died. Everyone said how brave he was, that he bared his suffering in silence. But privately, his friends and family all said how angry they were, that he didn't trust them, didn't need their strength, and they were hurt that he hadn't said goodbye. He hid too good. Getting found would have kept him in the game. Hide and seek, grown-up style. Wanting to hide, needing to be sought, confused about being found. Better than hide and seek, I like a game called Sardines. Now, in Sardines, the person who is it goes and hides. And everybody goes looking for them. But when they find him, they don't tell anybody else. Instead, they get in and hide there with him. Pretty soon, everybody's in a big heap, like a pile of puppies. Then, somebody giggles. And then, somebody laughs. And everybody gets found! By the sound of laughter, everybody gets found.
True story.
True story.
True story. Larry Walters, our hero.
Walters is a truck driver. Your average guy. He's sitting in his backyard, looking up, wishing he could fly.
For as long as he could remember, he wanted to go up, to be high in the air somehow, to ride the sky.
But there was no way he was ever going to pilot a plane, and hang gliding just looked too dangerous.
So he spent many summer afternoons in his backyard, sitting in his ordinary old aluminum lawn chair, the kind with the webbing and rivets.
Our next chapter takes place on July 2nd, 1982, and appears in newspapers and on television across the country.
There's old Larry Walters, high in the air over Los Angeles, flying at last,
Really getting up there.
Still sitting in his aluminum lawn chair, only now it's hooked up to 45 surplus helium-filled weather balloons.
Larry has a parachute on, a CB radio, a six-pack of beer, some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and a BB gun to pop some of the balloons to come down.
But instead of going a couple of 100 feet over his neighborhood, he shot up 11,000 feet, right through the approach corridor of the Los Angeles International Airport. This is a true story.
The human race sits in its chair. Some saying there's nothing left to do.
Others saying that the human situation is hopeless.
Meanwhile, the Larry Walters of the world are busy tying balloons to their chairs.
When asked by the press why he did it, he said,
You can't just sit there.
When asked if he was afraid, he answered,
Oh, you bet.
When asked if he would do it again, he said,
Nope.
when asked, "Are you glad you did it?"
"Are you glad you did it?"
"Are you glad you did it?"
He grinned from ear to ear and said,
Yes. 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 Oh, yes!
If the dream is held close to the heart,
And imagination is applied to what there is close at hand.
everything is still possible.
this is kind of personal. It started as a note to my wife, and then, because I thought some of you might feel the same way, I thought I'd pass it along. It's not my story anyway. It's Charles Boyer's. Remember Charles Boyer? Suave, dapper, handsome, graceful, lover of the most famous and beautiful women on the silver screen. Well, that was on camera and in the fan magazines. In real life, there was only one woman. For 44 years, his wife, Patricia. Friends said it was a lifelong love affair. They were no less lovers and friends and companions after the 40th year than after the first. Then Patricia developed cancer of the liver. He stayed by her side to provide hope and cheer, day and night for 6 months. But he could not change the inevitable. Patricia died in his arms. 2 days later, Charles Boyer was also dead. By his own hand. He said he did not want to live without her. He said her love was life. This is no movie. It's a real story. Charles Boyer's story. It's not for me to judge how he handled his grief. I don't know what I would do in a similar circumstance. But it is for me to say that I'm touched and comforted in a strange way. Touched by the depth of love behind the apparent sham of Hollywood love life. And comforted to know that two people can love each other that much, for that long. I don't know what I would do in similar circumstances. I pray I shall never have to stand in his shoes. Here comes the personal part. No apologies. There are times when I look across the room and see the woman I call my wife and friend and companion. I don't understand why Charles Boyer did what he did, but I know how he felt. It really is possible to love someone that much. I know. I'm absolutely certain of it.
Talking with a friend on the phone. She has a case of the midwinter spiritual rot and the terminal cold she's had since mid-September.
You don't ever get depressed, do you?
Are you kidding? There are times when I get so low it takes an extension ladder to climb out.
So, what do you do? I mean, what do you do?
No one has ever pinned me quite like that before. Usually they just ask what I think they should do. My solace is not in religion or yoga or rum or even sleep. It's Beethoven. I put his ninth on the stereo, pull the earphones down tight, lie down on the floor, and lie down on the floor. The music comes on like the first day of creation. And I think about old Mr. B. He knew a lot about depression and unhappiness, had a lousy love life, quarreled with his friends all the time, moved from place to place trying to find the right place. Mr. B wanted to be a virtuoso pianist. He wanted to sing well too. But when he was quite young, he began to lose his hearing, which is usually bad news for pianist singers. By 1818, when he was 48 years old, he was stone cold deaf, which makes it all the more amazing that just 5 years later, he managed to complete his great Ninth Symphony. He never really heard it. He just thought it. So I sit here, wondering if it could have ever sounded to Mr. B the way it sounds in my head. The crescendo rises, and my sternum starts to vibrate. And by the time the kettle drum is grinding out from all those big chords, I'm on my feet, singing along in gibberish with the mighty choir, all while the awesome music goes on about the end of the world and the coming of God and his angels. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Kaboom! Pow! Kabang! Lord! Uplifted, exalted, excited, affirmed, and overwhelmed. Man alive! And out of all that sorrow and trouble, out of all that sadness and disappointment, out of all that deep and permanent silence, came all that majesty and joy. He defied his fate with jubilation. And I can't sit here in my winter ash heap, wringing my hands in the face of that music. Not only does it wipe out spiritual rot, I'm pretty sure it also cures colds as well. Someday, some incredible December night, when I'm very rich, I'm going to rent me a grand hall and an amazing choir and a mighty symphony orchestra. And I'm going to stand on a podium and conduct the ninth. And I will personally play the kettle drum part 3 to the glorious end, while simultaneously singing at the top of my lungs. And in that awesome silence that follows, I will thank all the gods that be for Ludwig van Beethoven, for his ninth, and for his light. Man alive!
The dishes are washed and the sink is rinsed out. There remains in the strainer in the bottom of the sink what I will momentarily call some stuff. Now, any rational, intelligent, objective person would say that this is just a mixture of bits of protein, carbohydrates, fat, and fiber.
Dinner dandruff.
Furthermore, the person might add that this material was first sterilized by the high heat of cooking and further sanitized by going through the dishwater and rinsed.
No problem.
But any teenager who has been forced to wash the dishes knows that this explanation is a lie.
The stuff in the bottom of the sink strainer is toxic waste.
Deadly poison. A danger to health.
In other words, it's about enough to make you horrible.
Oh, please, your moms deal with that all the time.
One of the reasons why I have respect for my mother is because she reaches into the sink with her bare hands. Bare hands. And grabs that lethal gunk and puts it into the garbage can. Even worse, I saw her fishing around in the wet garbage bag, looking for a lost teaspoon. Bare-handed. Some sort of unbelievable courage. She found it in a clump of coffee grounds, chicken fat, and scrambled eggs. I almost passed out when she gave it to me to wash.
Once in French class, we learned the word odieux. When I asked my teacher what it meant, she told me that it meant unspeakable filth. I knew exactly what she was talking about. I see it every night. In the strainer. That night, at dinner washing time, I told my mother we had Odia in the sink. She gave me my son the idiot look and told me that the food I had just eaten was in my stomach in about the same condition. Rotting! Oh, no.
No matter what my mother thinks, I know that the stuff in the bottom of the sink strainer is lethal gunk. If you should ever accidentally touch it, you must scald and soap your hands before touching any other part of your body. Even worse, I know that the stuff can congeal and mush up and mutate into a living thing that can get out of the sink in the middle of the night and get loose in the house.
Come to think of it, my father never came closer than 3 feet to the sink in his life. My mother said he was lazy, but I knew that he knew what I knew about the gunk. I told him once, I bet Jesus never had to clean the gunk out of the sink. He agreed. It was the only theological discussion we ever had.
Imagine a high school graduation. The speaker addresses the students and asks,
How many of you would like to be adults? Independent, on your own citizens.
well, all hands would go up with some enthusiasm, and the speaker would then give them this list of things grown-ups do.
Clean out the sink strainer.
Plunge out the toilet.
Clean up babies when they poop and pee.
Wipe runny noses.
Empty out the cat litter. Scrape up dog doo.
Bury dead pets when they get run over in the street.
When you can do these things, then you'll be adults.
Some of the students might not want to go on after this, but they might as well face the truth. Taking out the garbage of this life is a condition of membership in community.
Being an adult is dirty work.
But someone has to do it.
Summer of 1959 at the Feather River Inn near the town of Blairsden in the Sierra Nevada mountain range of Northern California, a resort community. And I, just out of college, have a job that combines being a night desk clerk in the lodge and helping out with the horse wrangling in the stables. The owner/manager is Italian Swiss with European notions about conditions of employment. I think that he's a fascist who wants peasant employees who know their place, and he thinks that I'm a good example of how democracy can be carried too far. One week, the employees have been served the same thing for lunch every single day. 2 wieners, a mound of sauerkraut, and stale rolls. To compound insult with injury, the cost of meals was deducted from our check. I was outraged. On Friday night of that awful week, I was at my desk job around 11 o'clock, and the night auditor had just come on duty. I went into the kitchen to grab a bite to eat, and found notes to the chef to the effect that wieners and sauerkraut were on the employee menu for 2 more days.
That tears it! I quit!
For want of any better audience, I loaded on the night auditor, Sigmund Wallman.
I have had it up to here! I'm gonna get a plate of wieners and sauerkraut, wake up the owner, and throw it on him! I am sick, and I am tired of this crap! Who does he think he is anyhow? I don't even like wieners and sauerkraut, and I've eaten them for 1 week, for God's sake! This is un-American! And the whole hotel stinks anyhow! And all the horses are nags! And all the guests are
I raved on this way for 20 minutes and need it repeated on here. You get the drift. My monologue was delivered at the top of my lungs, punctuated by blows on the front desk, the kicking of chairs,
And much profanity!
a call to arms.
Freedom! Working justice! And the bringing of change for the working masses!
As I pitched my fit, Sigmund Wallman, the night auditor, sat watching me with sorrowful eyes. Put a bloodhound in a suit, and you have Sigmund Wallman. He's got good reason to look sorrowful, though. Survivor of Auschwitz. 3 years. German Jew. He liked being alone at the night job. Gave him peace and quiet, intellectual space. And what's more, he could go into the kitchen and have a bite to eat whenever he wanted to. All the wieners and sauerkraut he wanted. To him, a feast. What's more, there's no one around at night to tell him what to do. In Auschwitz, he dreamed of such a place. The only person he sees at night is me, the nightly disturber of his dream. Our shifts overlap for an hour, and here I am again, a one-man war party at full cry.
Are you finished?
No! Why?
Listen to me. You know what's wrong with you? It's not this job, and it's not the boss, or the chef, and it's not the wieners in the crowd.
What's wrong with me?
You think you know everything, but you don't know the difference between a problem and an inconvenience. If your house is on fire, if you have nothing to eat, if you break your neck, you got a problem. Everything else is an inconvenience. Life is inconvenient. Life is lumpy. The sooner you learn to know the difference, the longer you'll live. And you want to know people like me so much. Good night.
There in the late-night darkness of the Feather River Inn, Sigmund Wallman simultaneously kicked my butt and opened up a window in my mind. Problem or inconvenience? I call this the Wallman test of reality. Life is lumpy, but the lump in the oatmeal, the lump in the throat, and the lump in the breast are not the same lump. We should learn to know the difference. Good night, Sig.
There's a bench in the city where I live. Its structure is simple. 3 slabs of smooth gray granite. And having checked with a compass to be certain, I can tell you that the long sides of this bench face north and south, and the short sides face east and west. This sturdy seat has been placed with purpose on the highest ground of the highest hill, so that when the sky is clear on a summer's morning, you can see for almost 60 miles in 3 directions. This bench is, in fact, a tombstone in a cemetery, and I would take you there to sit if I could. You wouldn't feel uncomfortable sitting on it, I promise. You wouldn't even notice what it was at first. It's on the edge of a paved lane that curves through the burial grounds. It's placed so you are clearly invited to use it. The placement of the bench, the consciousness of the view, all say that someone went to a lot of trouble to be useful in death. A parting gesture of quiet generosity has been made. Funerals have a certain narcissism to them, a focus on oneself. What I want for my funeral, what I want for my epitaph. But to me, gravestones are markers of loneliness. But this bench is different. It's unique. There's no name inscribed in it, no conventional epitaph, no date, just an invitation to sit and think. What marks this grave is the gift of silent companionship that bridges loneliness. This bench has become a spiritual retreat for me over the years, and I know that I'm not the only one to use it, because once I found a note taped to the underside of the bench. Not for me, for a young woman, from a young man who loved her deeply and wrote her careless poetry with great passion. And no, I'm not sorry that I snooped. And yes, I put the note right back where I found it. And no, I did not wait in the bushes to see who came and got the note. Secret lovers have enough problems as it is. But it was on this bench, the morning after one of those milestone birthdays, that I came to the moment where one passes over from the abstract intellectual knowledge that all human beings die, to the active realization that I will die. Me. Someday, I will not be. But I walked away thinking, well, that's okay. I connect that moment of enlightenment with the peculiar sanctuary of the bench, and whoever provided it. This bench will last for hundreds of years, and many people will sit on it, and think not of the name of its owner, but of the nameless joys of this sweet life, and the mystery of death, and how utterly amazing it all is, and that somehow, sometimes, things are just as they should be.